a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Tony Circelli from Heraeus Kulzer Financing. Tony has been in the dental industry for over 40 years, starting on September 29, 1976. He started in the Chem Lab at Jelenko, then was the assayer in the refining division, and has been the refining manager at Heraeus Kulzer since 1994. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thanks for having me, Howard. I appreciate it.
So with the last name of Circelli, you have to be either Italian, or Italian. Which one is it?
All of the above. I was actually born in Italy. I came over to New York when I was 2 years old, and we moved to Jersey first, and then we moved to New Rochelle, New York, where I live right now.
Well, I have to ask you a politically incorrect question. I remember when we were little, The Godfather came out. It was a huge show. Godfather 1, 2, and 3.
My favorite movie, yeah.
And then The Sopranos. The Sopranos come out. Is that what it was called on HBO?
Yes.
And it was their #1 hit. And there were some Italian people on CNN and TV saying that it was racist, disrespectful to Italians. Do you share that view? Was that a dig on Italians?
I don't share that view at all. I thought the movies and the show is very entertaining. I don't, and you read about this stuff. It gets glorified, obviously, and people love it, and it gets blown out of proportion. But it doesn't bother me at all. It's funny because my mother and my aunt are like very, very Italian, and it doesn't bother my mother. But my aunt always says Italians don't do that. It's the Chinese mafia that does that kind of stuff, and I just laugh. But it doesn't bother me at all.
So you basically work for Heraeus Kulzer, which is out of a suburb of Frankfurt, Germany. Their U.S. division is in South Bend, Indiana, home of Notre Dame.
Yes.
So are you a Notre Dame fan?
Yes, I always was, even before we went to South Bend, yes.
And then you refine the refineries in Newark, New Jersey.
Yes, that's where all the processing is done. And Howard, we were purchased by a company called Mitsui's Chemicals, which is a Japanese company. We were purchased about 4 years ago, and they're based out of Tokyo, but the Kulzer Dental is still based out of Hanau. I just want to get that straight.
So Heraeus, the German company, was bought by the Japanese.
Yes.
And that's called Mitsui, MITUSI?
Yes, Mitsui Chemicals.
And that what year did they buy it? 2012, you said?
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah.
And man, the world's just an international conglomeration, isn't it?
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
What do you think? So basically, what do you're talking to basically all general dentists now? Thousands of general dentists all. What do you think the general dentist needs to know about refineries?
Well, first and foremost, we try to get out and we try to educate the dentist, the oral surgeons, or general dentists, or whoever's pulling out some crown and bridge material out of the patient's mouth. They have these, we call them the middlemen, that come in off the street with some funds in their pocket. They walk into a dentist's office with a scale. They already have determined the price of the day for the gold, platinum, and palladium, and they already have determined a price what they want to pay for the white-looking material and what they want to pay for the yellow-looking material. So they'll set up an appointment, and the dentist will come out, show them the crown and bridge or whatever scrap material they have available for purchase, and this middleman will tell the dentist, okay, I'll give you, $5 a pennyweight for the yellow stuff. I'll give you $2 a pennyweight for the white stuff. He'll hand the dentist over some cash, and the dentist goes back to work. Now the dentists, they like that because it's minimal time away from the bench and not the bench, from the chair, and the chair, when they're away from the chair, it's money. So they want to keep it short and sweet transaction. And now what happens? The dentist goes back to work, and the middleman goes to another dentist's office, and another dentist's office, and another dentist's office, where he might be calling on 20 dentist offices a day. And in reality, Howard, I don't know how you've been in the business for a long time. I've been in the business for a long time, over 40 years, looking at precious metal, and it's even hard for me to determine the precious metal content in white material and the precious metal content in yellow material, especially the white material these days with more nickel and chrome and cobalt and non-precious material that's out in the industry right now. So to get a true representative assay, that material has to be melted down and a full, complete assay has to be done to determine the true precious metal content in that mass. Now, what's happening is this middleman is going to all these dentist offices, and he's picking up dentist after dentist and day after dentist, and he's batching it up and sending it into a company like Heraeus Kulzer Refining or other refining companies, other scrap assaying companies, and he's getting paid for all 4 precious metals, and he's getting paid for maybe twice as much as what he paid out. All right, okay, he pays for his expenses and his travel and entertainment and all that stuff. He has to pay for his car. But the big message we're trying to get out to the dentist, and we've been doing this for the last, seems like more the last 10 years, is eliminate that middleman. Go direct to a company like Heraeus Kulzer, or preferably Heraeus Kulzer Refining, because those middlemen are sending it to companies like us to get the full value of that metal. And if they sent directly to us, the dentist would get full value of that metal. And I have some articles that were written in dental publications about dentists being undercut by the person walking off the street and sending metal to us, and how much more we paid the dentists and how thrilled they were and how much they spread the word out. But that's the main thing, Howard, that I like to get out to the dentist is deal direct with a company, a reputable, honest company that's been around a long time, has a great track record, great reputation like Heraeus Kulzer Refining, and you'll get full value for your scrap. And that's all. I think that's all the dentist wants, is they want to get a fair value for the scrap. They know there's going to be fees involved when a company buys the material, but they want to only be charged the fees that are advertised, and they'll get a fair value, and that's all they're asking for.
But the middleman, it's not just bothering the dentist; it bothers the patients, because a lot of dentists will say, do you want this old gold or whatever, and the patient say, yeah, I'll take it, because they're going to sell it. And then most of them go down to the parts of town where there's pawn shops where they have big signs by the door, we buy scrap gold. So the same thing that you just described is taking place to your patient. So what if the patient wants it back? I mean, I'd recommend that you would give them an envelope of someone you recommend to scrap this, because, I mean, taking it to a pawn shop, this is what's going to happen too.
Well, Howard, here's what we have. Heraeus Kulzer has a small collapsible mailer box that we supply to the dentist office, and a lot of the dentists do give it to the patient when a crown is pulled out. They'll give them our box. It's collapsible. It's safe. It's postage paid, and the patient sends it to us, and we'll pay him for the dollar amount that scrap's worth for that crown or a 2-unit bridge. It might be $50, $100, $150, but the patient will get paid for it. You're right. Instead of going to the kiosk in the mall or the shop downtown, everybody's buying gold, cash for gold places, and they're just undercutting the customer also. Now, and this is really the message we're trying to get out. To just stop dealing with those, cash for gold places and the middle person. Deal with a direct, reputable company.
Okay, now your website is mydental360.com. Now, is that the general website for Heraeus Kulzer?
Yes, it is.
And did you go with mydental360 because no one on earth could spell Heraeus Kulzer?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I still have to spell it out. I go Heraeus. So I still have to spell it out sometimes. But the powers that be in the marketing department, we have a fantastic, great marketing department, and they came up with the name. I can't take credit for that one.
Well, I agree. I mean, I'm 54 and I still can't spell Albuquerque. Every single time I slow down, think it out, type it, I get the red squiggly line, have to right-click the mouse, and sure enough, I can spell Connecticut because I break that into connect, I cut, and you're saying Heraeus. But yeah, so you with mydental360.com. So if they go to mydental360.com, how do they find how to send their scrap back to you?
There'll be a tab up top that says refining services, and when you go into that, it'll show you where you can order packages, boxes, containers. We have boxes and containers available to the dentists and to the labs, and in each one of our containers, there's a pre-printed, prepaid, pre-insured UPS label. All the plastic bags you need, everything you need, make it nice and simple. Our blue box, which we really use at the dentist office, it's the size of a case box, and it has a collection jar inside. It has a label, and it has an acknowledgement form, which is a receipt that the dentist or the lab fills out. They keep a copy for themselves. A copy goes in the package, and we make it as simple as possible for the dentist to send the scrap in.
And what is the average money being paid to a dentist after he gets divorced and he mails you in his wedding ring, his old wedding ring? What's the average old wedding ring going for these days?
Well, the old wedding rings are probably going for like, maybe we're paying you. It's funny because you're probably paying like $2,000 for it, but we're going to pay you for the gold content in there. So we're probably only paying you about $50 or $60 for that. But an average lot of scrap that comes in from a dentist these days, I think the timing has shifted a little bit. Years ago, I would say about 10, 15 years ago, I think the dentists were holding on to their scrap for a while, or even sometimes till retirement, or to that magic number, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. They were holding on to it for that magic number. And now I see it's more and more regular. So maybe it depends on how busy the practice is, how much scrap they develop. But you're seeing it more common now where a dentist is sending in, once a year, twice a year, maybe every quarter. And years ago, they would try to save it up and batch it up, which is a better idea. Part of my presentation to labs and dentists is I tell them, don't batch it up, don't gather it up, don't keep it in your basement, don't keep it in your garage, don't keep it laying around, because there might be theft involved, there might be fires, floods, whatever it is, and it's going to be very hard to get an insurance company to pay you back for some raw scrap. So I tell the dentist, when you accumulate enough, if you don't want to take money back for it, we have a program where you could exchange it for 1 ounce gold eagles or gold maple leafs. And every time you send your scrap in, put an eagle or a maple leaf or two in your safety deposit box. And, after 30, 40 years when you retire, instead of having, 10 or 20 pounds of dirty, raw scrap that you're trying to get rid of, now you're going to have maybe 10 or 15 or 20 1 ounce gold coins, which will be a lot easier to get rid of when you retire.
Liquidity. Don't ever let your money get too far from cash. I'm looking at your website, mydental360.com. Current precious metal prices: gold, $1,162 an ounce. Silver, $1,662 an ounce. Platinum, $16 an ounce. Platinum, $930 an ounce, and palladium, $732 an ounce. A lot of times molybdenum is trading higher than gold. How's molybdenum compared to gold these days?
Well, we really don't get involved in any of those other trace metals, moly or ruthenium, iridium, and trace metals like that, because the refining costs are so high, and it's such a low content that we only pay for the 4, precious metals: gold, platinum, palladium, and silver. And those are the 4 that our machine concentrates on, and that's what we pay for.
So
and it's funny now that I'm sorry, Howard.
No,
I just wanted to touch. I want to touch on something we talked before, that the dentist is, or even a lab guy, they wait for that magic number, $1,000 or $1,500 before they think about sending in. What's really funny the last 5 years or so is that you walk in and you say, I'm waiting for gold to hit 1,500, or the lab owner will say, I'm waiting for gold to hit 1,500. And, my response to that is, but you're using 5 times more palladium than you are gold. Keep an eye on that palladium price. People don't even know that palladium exists. If you're not in the dental industry, I would say 9 out of 10 people don't even know that there's a metal called palladium. I think they see gold in the mouth, and number one, they think that the dentist probably takes an impression, and he goes in his closet and pulls out a shell and molds it into your mouth. A regular customer might not even know that there's dental labs exist. So and the gold is so pure, so soft in its pure state that this platinum group metals have to be added, and palladium is a huge metal that's in the dental industry right now, and that's mixed with gold, and it's compatible with the human tissue. It doesn't cause us problems in the mouth to the gums, and that's the most important part also. But palladium is a very, very big part of the refining division now, and the price, like you said, it's over $700. I mean, when I first started 40 years ago, palladium was maybe $5 an ounce, and gold was $38 an ounce. And then gold hit about $850 in the year 1980, and that's when palladium came into the market. And they started using lower gold content alloys and higher palladium content alloys. And we used to do fire assays to come up with the assay, and we were one of the first companies that went to a machine called the ICP, which is an industry standard right now. We were one of the first companies in the early 80s to use an ICP because it's very, very accurate with palladium readings.
That is amazing. That is just totally amazing. So now that dentists are using so much less porcelain fused metals, and they're going to all tooth colored zirconium, everything, I know we'll be taking out old bridges and old gold crowns and everything for decades to come. How long do you think a business like this will last? I mean, eventually, if dentists stop putting it in, someday they're going to stop taking it out. How long do you think this business will last? 2 more generations?
Well, I'm hoping. I mean, I get the Identalloy Council report every year, and that gives a pretty good indication on what kind of metal is used out at the manufacturing level right now. And there was a slight increase in high noble, and there was an increase in the noble metals. Yes, it was an increase against a lower number because the numbers were coming down, and but there was a little uptick on it. So I mean, it was very encouraging in the refining end. But you talk to lab owners over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, they were using 90% of the restorations were with metal, and now they're probably across the board on average. It's probably down to 35% right now, and it's as the zirconia and other materials get tested and they're proven, that number will probably go down. Let's turn our attention to the dentist now. Howard, you might know better than me. How long does a very, very good restoration last in the mouth? Would you say 15 or 20 years?
Well, actually, that's an interesting question because, dentists always think about how long will something last, almost like a mechanical engineer. Like how long will a diesel engine last, or how long will a Rolex watch? But in dentistry, almost everything fails from a biological infection, from bacteria, decay, Streptococcus mutans eating it. And so you can build the nicest, gold house in the world, but the same reasons why they need it in the first place, they don't brush and floss and drink Mountain Dew, doesn't change when they leave your office. And actually, the average tooth-colored restoration in the United States is only lasting 6.5 years.
Really?
And so if you put a gold crown on someone who drinks Mountain Dew for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, I have patients say to me, I say, well, why do you drink so much Mountain Dew? And you know what they say to me? And it's so sad, it almost makes you want to cry.
They want to stay awake?
They say, well, if I buy a gallon of milk, it'll go bad in 3 days. But if I buy a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, it'll never go bad. And it's like, how do you even begin that conversation? I mean, it's like, why? It's just so sad. But yeah, so I think that gold crowns fail from bacterial infection, not their mechanical strengths. But I do want to tell you something to these younger guys that I loved about gold. You know what I love the most about gold? And this is something people don't talk about. Your silver filling is still lasting 38.5 years on average. And the tooth-colored ones are lasting 6.5, because the silver filling, everything in there is bacterial static. It's half mercury, half silver, zinc, copper, and tin. And I'm telling you that I see a bunch of elderly people in Phoenix, Arizona, because it's a retirement place for
Hmm.
people west of the Mississippi. If you're over 65 in New Jersey, New York, you go to Florida.
You go to Florida. Yeah.
If you're on my side of the Mississippi, you come to Arizona. And I have all these elderly ladies that are 80 years old. And they had these old gold foils placed 40, 50 years ago. And they were tacked into place. And there's gaps all around them. And you can like see holes next to the side, no decay. I remember when CapTech came out, porcelain fused to CapTech. There was
Hmm.
it showed up all over the literature that these were lasting longer because something about the high surface gold energy was inhibiting recurrent decay. And then we switched to composite, which was completely inert plastic. And not only did these fail in 6.5 years from recurrent cavity, but that cavity was like on steroids. I mean, it was mush. When you took out that cavity, you take a big old fat slow speed round burn, just take out oatmeal. And I think that with these millennials who are thinking, oh, everything's so great, you mill these monolithic zirconium blocks and these zirconium and all that stuff, because they're thinking tooth colored, faster, easier, cheaper. They're not thinking biology. And I
Yep.
think that something about a high surface energy gold, bugs don't live to be there. I try to explain it to young dentists like, imagine there were two apartments to rent. And one you moved in there and it was all made out of nice composite plastic and it was all plush. And you said, I want to live here. And they said, well, I got another one to show you. And you walk into this really high gold energy and you walk in there and it's all static electricity and your hair stands on end. And every time you touch someone, you shock each other. That's what it's like living under high surface metal
Hmm.
restorations. And they last longer than the non-precious metals, and the non-precious metals lasted longer than the composite inert. So either the manufacturers that make tooth-colored stuff, I mean, they gotta find an antibacterial ingredient because
Hmm.
dentistry fails from biology. It's kind of like if I make a barn, I don't care how many times you brush it and floss it, it's going to be eaten by termites. But if I make that barn out of aluminum, it's not going to rust and termites can't eat it. And we just seems like dentistry's been going backwards the whole 30 years I've been in it because of the aesthetic health compromise. Everybody wants tooth colored. So they're getting rid of these restorations that would last for 3 or 4 decades, amalgam and gold, and they're replacing them with all this inert white stuff in a mouth that has identified 600 different species of bugs are living in your mouth. And you're from
Is
Indiana, you're a Hoosier. You might have 900 species in your
it?
mouth.
Is it easier to work with the zirconia and that type
No,
of material? I mean,
no,
is
I
that
don't think.
the why? I mean,
No, it's because
you
it's
know,
because Americans want tooth colored.
yeah.
They want tooth colored. It's all natural. It looks all natural. They can hang gold on their ears and nose and belly button and all that because that's
Uh-huh.
jewelry. But when you put jewelry in the tooth, and I'm talking about just white people, all the other ethnicities have no problem with gold on their teeth. Like all my restorations are gold. When you go to Africa and Asia, people will get a gold crown on their front tooth just for cosmetics. And they'll
Hmm.
put little gold foils on their front tooth, and they'll put little gold bars to their nose. So the whole world sees gold as a decoration for the entire body, except for white women in the United States and Europe, where in their mind it signals that that tooth used to have a flaw. So they want
Right.
tooth colored. So they're going from gold decorative jewelry, which what African Americans, Native American Indians, Hispanics, they have no problem with gold on their teeth. They love it. I have no problem with gold on my teeth. I have all my
Hmm.
restorations are gold. And all the reasons all my restorations are gold is because I know it's the most bacterial static restoration you can put in a mouth. The least likely place a gram negative anaerobe is going to live is next to high surface energy gold. And the next one would be from some amalgam restorations that's having tin ions fly out. The hygienists use stannous fluoride. Stannous is tin.
Hmm.
Silver. The pediatric dentists use silver, silver potions underneath their fillings to kill the decay. Mercury. Obviously, that's not a multivitamin. Everything in an amalgam is antibacterial, and these companies like Ivoclar and 3M, They always talk about, well, here's the bonding strength, here's the wear rate. Just like they're engineers, like they're building a barn. It's like, I don't care. When they talk about wear rates, my fillings don't wear down. When they talk about bonding strengths, my fillings aren't falling out. My fillings are attacked by bacteria and they're eaten alive like termites going after a barn in Kansas. And I wanted them to quit talking about bonding strengths and wear rates. Make me something that when bugs eat it, they die. I mean, every house in America has little boxes of stuff for the mice to eat, so they die. They're always getting their house sprayed. I mean, it's biology. It's not mechanical engineering. So yeah, I would rather have gold in my mouth. And I tell my patients, if you want this to last a lifetime, you need to make something that either kills bugs or bugs don't like. And that's high surface energy noble gold. And that's the only thing in my mouth. And the only people that will go for it that are white men. Because a white man will say, well, hell, if that's the best, do the best.
Do you know, Howard, I do a lot of co-traveling with our reps, and I've gotten to know a lot of lab guys, and they tell me, Tony, the metals usage is going down, but they love talking about metal. They love talking about the olden days when they used to use a lot of metal and how easy it was and how nice it was. It doesn't sound like a lot of, at least the old timers anyway, are very happy about not using a lot of metal. I think that they would really like to continue using metal, and they like talking about it, and they still say I don't think that the metal in the lab will ever totally 100% go away. It's going to go lower and lower. And I talk to dentists, and they say that if you take care of your mouth, the crowns will last 12 or 15 years. So the stuff coming out of the mouth now is went in around 2000, early 2000s. And hopefully the stuff that went in 2000 was still metal. So I think scrap will be around, never entirely gone altogether. I think it'll be around for another couple of decades. And
you know what I tell them when they say, well, the gold costs more. I say, well, look, gold is only, these are true numbers. Gold is only $56 a gram. Crystal meth is $100 a gram. Heroin is $130 a gram. And cocaine is $215 a gram. So gold is $56 a gram is actually the cheapest drug you're going to put in your mouth. And it's well,
I hope you Googled that, Howard. Did you Google those prices?
I got it right here. That's a reputable site. Gold.
You sounded like you knew it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. The only low cost dentistry. I mean, if you want dentistry to be cheaper, lower cost, more affordable, then just get it done once and right and have it last 30, 40 years. I mean, a gold inlay onlay crown is the cheapest restoration of the last 40 years. And a tooth-colored crown or filling is actually extremely expensive if you're going to have to replace it every 6.5 years.
Well, I just got a crown replaced about 3 months ago, and my dentist, he's in his early 60s, and I've been going to him forever. And, every time I go in there, he comes out, everybody gathers their scrap up, and, the refining guy's there. And he says to me, Tony, you're going to kill me. I'm like, what's the matter, doctor? He goes, I'm going to put zirconia in your mouth. And I should have stopped him right there, but I'm like, do what you got to do. You're comfortable putting it in my mouth. Go ahead. And I thought he's, being in early 60s, that he would still use more and more metal. But you see it's changing even with some of the old timers out there now. And,
well, it's tough because when I say, to patients, well, you want the best or you want the cheapest? Because I can't give you the best for the cheapest. They say, well, what's the best? And I say, gold. And if you're an old man with a liver spot on your head, they say, well, do what's best. But if you're a woman of any age, they'd say, I want tooth-colored.
Well, keep pushing the metal, Howard. I like that. I mean, I and people like using it. Hopefully it'll. I don't think it'll ever. I don't think you're going to walk into a lab and they're going to say, "Hey, Tony, we used to use 30% metal. Now we're back up to 90." I don't think that'll ever happen. But maybe it'll slow down and it won't. Get lower and lower.
Well, actually, you know what? My 54 laps around the sun, I noticed that linear thinking is always wrong. Like remember when the stock market went from like NASDAQ went from like 1,200 to 5,800, and everybody thought, oh, next is 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Yeah, the next thing was it was right back down. housing
Yeah.
prices up, down, stocks up, down. And whenever people say to me, well, PFMs went from 90% to 35%, so thus in 10 more years it'll be zero. It's like I've never seen linear thinking work as a business model. It's always two steps forward, one step back. It's always up, down. Something looks good for a while, then you realize maybe it's better to go back the other way, or you'll go back slightly different. But no, I don't think metal's out. And I also don't see, I've talked to the CEOs of a lot of these big major tooth colored restoration companies, and I say, do you have anything like in the pipeline where within 5 years you'll release a tooth colored material that's bacterial static, or at least has something in there to kill bugs? And they go, man, we know that's all we need. We know that's on our the beat, but we don't see anything yet. And then when I ask little boys, okay, if I put this filling in your mouth and it was a silver filling, you'll never replace it until you're as old as me. But if I put a tooth colored one in there, I'm going to replace it. You're in the 6th grade. I'm going to replace it when you're in high school. I'm going to replace it again as soon as you graduate from college. I'm going to replace it again when you get married. I'm going to replace this every 6.5 years. And they said, yeah, I want a silver one. Not to mention that, I'm talking to you right now. I can't see any of your molars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you seen any of my gold? Have you seen any of my gold teeth?
No.
Yeah, I mean, so it's
funny. Yeah. It's funny. I'm in the dental business. I really don't look at people's teeth. Oh, man. Every once in a while, I say, "Man, you got a great teeth on that guy there." Every once in a while, but not usually. I look at that. But with the scrap, there's so much more. Especially these days, and I talk to other refiners. I meet at the shows and the meetings, and how harder and harder it is, getting a homogeneous melt and getting a representative assay. And that's another big part of what we do and what we thrive to do. All right, we've gone to great lengths to even change our procedure a couple of years ago with all this non-precious stuff out there now. Because when you melt, let's stick with a dentist lot, and it's got a lot of white material. It could be a lot of non-precious in there. It could be chrome cobalt. I mean, there's manufacturers out there now that have a lot of cobalt, and they're selling it as a noble metal because it has 25% palladium in there. That's very difficult to melt. So if you're not dealing with a refining company that really knows what they're doing and really knows how to get a great sample, and you're going to get a good assay. I mean, we went to the lengths a couple of years ago where we said, okay, we're going to X-ray after our melt. We're going to X-ray the top and the bottom of the bar just to make sure that there's the same amount of precious metal on each side. Okay, now if it doesn't have the same amount of precious metal on each side, we will remelt it with copper just to try to get the bar homogeneous. And what the copper does, it lowers all the contents of the metals, but it raises the weight, and it helps it, it helps it melt a little better. And we'll continue X-raying top and bottom to make sure we have a homogeneous melt. Then we'll send the sample to the assay lab, and we're confident that we're getting a very good assay and very good results.
Now, how long have you been with Heraeus Kulzer?
I'm going to give you a little bio. I started in 1976 with Jelenko. Everybody's heard about Jelenko, right? In 1996, I think it was January 96, Jelenko was bought out by Heraeus. And in 2003, the Heraeus Jelenko name was sold to Argon. And along with that, the Jelenko Refining name was sold to Argon also. So I've been in the refining industry. I became an assayer right after the Chem Lab. Probably 36 years I've been actually in the refining industry, and being an assayer, that's where I started. That's key also of understanding the whole process, because the assay process is key on coming up and recovering the precious metal content in a mass, and that's how you pay the customer, obviously.
If Heraeus Kulzer owned Jelenko, why did they sell Jelenko to Argon? Because that's another refiner.
Well, Heraeus made the decision that they were going to sell the Jelenko alloy line, and so we no longer sell. We used to manufacture the Jelenko alloy line, but Argent bought the alloy line, and now Argent is, or Argon, I still call them Argent, but Argon is manufacturing and making the Jelenko alloy now, where Heraeus sold that in the early 2000s.
So do you guys, when you guys refine this, do you make the alloy and sell it to the labs again?
No. Well, that's after the refining process. That is one way it could go, but we do not sell alloy any longer. So once the metal is refined to its pure state, it gets put into the pure state and it gets sold to any industry. And, there's gold in computers and hospital equipment and airplane engines, iPods, iPads, everything. So whatever industry, and also back into the gold industry. And now palladium, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, I know because I've been in the business a long time. A majority of the palladium, I would say about 50% of the world's palladium, is used in the auto industry.
Really?
There's palladium in the catalytic converters, right at the bottom of the engine, right at the base of the muffler. So every car out there has some palladium in it. So if you ever see the palladium price, you'll see it going up and down, up and down. And I'm simplifying it because all the so-called experts who try to tell people how the gold price goes up and down and how the palladium price goes up and down, nobody really knows for sure. The gold price stays up, has a lot to do with the strength of the American dollar, the economy. Back in 2008, when there was foreclosures, unemployment was high, the stock market was terrible, the car industry was doing bad. That's when gold hit $1,000 for the first time back in '08. It's recovered a little bit. It's doing very well right now, so it's a little stable. The palladium price more is geared for supply and demand. With the car industry doing very well, and it's, of all the reports, it's going to continue doing very well. The palladium price, I think, will stay up there around $700, $800, $900 because there's still a lot of cars being manufactured. And like I said, every car has palladium in it. And it used to have platinum in it. The car industry used to have platinum, and then platinum in the year 2000, platinum skyrocketed, and the car industry said, all right, we're going to get another platinum group metal. They said palladium's cheap. I shouldn't say cheap, it's less expensive, has the same characteristics. It could be used the same way as platinum. It's 4 times less money. So the car industry got rid of platinum, they used palladium. Then boom, the palladium price went up to $1,000 because Russia now said we don't have enough palladium to supply the car industry. And then I think back then the America Honda set out a press release saying now the palladium price is getting out of hand. We're going to find another metal to put into our mufflers, into our cars. And that's when Russia found a surplus of palladium and the palladium price shot down. So that's just a little history and a little thinking anyway of why I think the metals go up and down and what drives the metals every day.
So you're right now, you're talking to me from South Bend, Indiana.
I am in Newark, New Jersey right now.
Oh, you're at the refining place?
Yes.
Okay, and in South Bend, that's Heraeus Kulzer's. Do you still call it Heraeus Kulzer after the merger of Mitsui?
Yes. It's if you see our logo now, it's Heraeus Kulzer and Mitsui Chemicals Group underneath it. So yes, in South Bend, Indiana, is our corporate office. That's where our sales, inside sales, marketing, finance, manufacturing, warehousing, shipping, and receiving. That's all taking place in South Bend, Indiana. It's a big facility out there.
Do you guys make stuff in South Bend, Indiana, or is that all made in Germany?
No, they still manufacture the modern materials, which a lot of labs use, and they don't make the teeth in South Bend, but it's a big distribution point in South Bend. They warehouse it and ship it out there. So what a lot of our clinical material, a lot of our material that we send to dentists is sold through distributors. So the distributors order from us, and we send that out to the distributors in bulk, and then the distributors send to the dentist.
So you sell through distributors. Did you go to the Greater New York meeting?
Yeah, I was there for a short period, yes.
Did you notice first time ever Amazon.com had a big presence there, a big booth? Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that, but I read something very interesting today that they opened a store in California where you go shopping in like a big supermarket and there's no checkout, no line. It's all done on the app, and it knows what you scan it on your phone, and the food you take out of there, you get billed for it. So, I mean, every day it's getting crazy out there.
So what did you think? What do you think though of Amazon.com being at the Greater New York? Do you think Heraeus Kulzer will ever sell all their stuff to dentists directly on Amazon.com?
I really don't know. I really don't get too involved in that. We got guys a lot smarter than me when it comes to the distribution channel that make that decision. So I really don't know.
So what is
I know the refining will never go through Amazon. Let me put it that way.
So what percent of Heraeus Kulzer is dental versus dental lab? Dentist professional versus dental lab?
Well, what we sell is Heraeus Kulzer was a very big name in the dental industry years ago, and Heraeus was big on the metal side in Germany. And when they bought Jelenko, it was a great marriage. And right now on the lab side, we sell a ton of denture teeth. We do refining, modern materials. We got a great new putty that's out there now in the lab on the lab side, and the labs love this new putty we have. And our teeth, our premium teeth are top notch. And on the lab side, and as well as on the clinical side, we have this digital denture system that's really taken off and that we're really, really proud of.
You know, it's kind of funny because I graduated from school in '87, and I was formally told by our prosthodontic department that dentures were going extinct, that they were going down and down, and they'd be gone. And here it is, 30 years later. 30 years later, the United States makes more dentures than it did when I got out of school in 1987. 30 years later, we make more units of dentures per day than we did 30 years ago.
Is that number going to keep going up?
I think it's going to, yeah. Well, number one, the population's going up. I mean, gosh, you know.
Life expectancy, population, I mean, a lot of factors. I think it's going to keep going up.
In 1862, there was only 30 million Americans. And a century and a half later, there's 324 million people. So we've almost gained 300 million people in the last 150 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't want this to come off and sound wrong, but in my office, a lot of the denture patients, they were not born in the United States. I mean, there's a lot of people coming here that were, you know, refugees, you know, coming here looking for economic opportunity, and they needed dentures, or they want dentures. So I think I think a huge immigrant population is also feeding dentures, and an aging population.
I see a lot more labs in my travels. You know, they open up denture departments. They're becoming full service labs now. Labs that were Crown and Bridge are venturing into the denture side now. So there's a
lab in Nogales, Arizona, 90 miles south of me. Right, you know, I'm in Phoenix, so go 90 miles south. You're on the border. There's a lab.
I've been to a lab in Nogales, Mexico.
Well, yeah, but the cases are mailed to Nogales, USA. And then they drive them in a car to Nogales, Mexico. And they do this one lab does 1,000 removable cast partials per day.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's unbelievable. That's amazing.
1,000 per day. But then you think a third of a billion people, that's really not that many. Yep. That's really not that many. Yep. So what else is Heraeus Kulzer passionate about today? What's got you guys excited?
You know, I'm the big scrap refining guy, so I really can't talk a lot about other products. I know that we have great products that every dentist has been buying a Kulzer product forever. But at the Greater New York, they had a new scanner that's out there now, and I know that the digital denture is, like I said, we're very proud of that, and that's going to be the wave of the future. So to the lab and to the dentist, through our sales force, that's the big item right now is the Pala Digital Denture System.
Wow.
PDD, it's called PDD. I through my relationships, you know, like you just asked, what's Heraeus doing more of, and I'm trying to, with the relationships I have, trying to, you know, educate the contacts that I have in what Heraeus comes out with every year. They come out with something new. So
So
proud to be a part of it, and
it's called Palo Digital Denture.
Pala, Pala.
Pala Digital Denture.
Yes.
And who's your? Go ahead.
PDD. It should be on our. It should be on a website. There should be one of the main things on there.
Yeah, and who's your most your key opinion leader dentist on the Pala Digital Dentures?
I really don't get involved in that, Howard. I couldn't even answer that. But Leslie Melvin is our director of marketing, and she controls all of the key opinion leaders and all the literature and all the advertising for that product. So I really, I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, have her email me, howard@dentaltown.com, because I'll tell you what, I know my homies and the millennials, they love the online CE. So if she had a rockin' hot certified dental technician and or a dentist or a prosthodontist that really like to show how this thing works, the Dental Town has a 250,000 dentists on it, and 50,000 of them have downloaded the iPhone. And we put like 350 1-hour long online CE courses on there, and they've been viewed almost 750,000 times. It's just crazy numbers.
Wow.
And if if some dentist or a prosthodontist or someone wants to explain how to the next generation denture, making an online CE course is the fastest way to teach every dentist under 30 how to do it in an hour.
Well, we have our technical expert living right near you in Chandler. His name's Craig Nelson. I don't know if you've heard his name, and he goes around and gives classes and seminars on the product.
Is he
Dr.
a dentist or a lab?
He's a lab person, former lab owner. He's our director of training for the PDD. But Dr. Giacobbe was by our booth. Like I said, I know, Dr. Giacobbe for years, and stopped by to say hello. And he stopped and he was talking to our president. His name is Chris Holden. Chris has had some articles in the publications talking about the digital dentistry, and Dr. Giacobbe had a nice conversation with him. So if you talk to Dr. Giacobbe on a regular basis, maybe he could tell you a little bit more than I can about it. But I will let Leslie know about that, definitely.
All right. Well, hey, Tony, I want to tell you, it means a lot to me that you came on my show today to talk to my homies. It's a very rare subject, something that a lot of dentists might not have ever spent a lot of time thinking about. And I think you added a lot of information, a lot of food for thought. And scrap metal needs to be taken more serious. The dentist shouldn't be selling it for cash. Some guy walking by the office. You shouldn't be handing these crowns to your patients because they're just going to go to any pawn shop. I mean, you go to any mall in America, one of those mall stores has a sign outside, we buy scrap, we buy gold, and they don't realize that you could probably get a lot more bang for your buck if you did it through a high-end reputable company instead of anybody who puts a sign by their walk-by traffic door.
Take a minute, find out what company's reputable. I mean, even we have some dentists that'll call me and say, hey, I called my main lab and they told me to send it to you guys, So now more dentists are getting, I think years ago they used to deal with the middleman more and more, and we're definitely trying to get out there. We have, we have about 50 sales reps, and part of their job is to educate the dentist on not dealing with that middleman. And I think more and more as the prices go up, that the dentists are getting a little more knowledgeable about what's going on, because these guys coming off the street used to give them that same rate that they gave even though the prices have doubled. So now the dentists are getting a little more educated about it. And also in the dental office, another thing we try to stress to the dentists is a lot of the staff doesn't know that these crown and bridge material, onlays, inlays are precious metal. They're, I don't know if they're throwing them away or they're discarding them or what they're doing. I tell a dentist, and you walk into a dentist's office, he's so busy, he doesn't even think about scrap. It's at the bottom of the totem pole. I say, you know what? Put somebody in charge of collecting the scrap. Give them a little percentage, a little bonus to take care of it and maintain it. And you'll see how much scrap you collect and how beneficial it is for you. But every dentist has scrap in it. It's weird to hear in my travels when they say, oh, we don't have scrap in here. I think they don't know they have scrap in there. I think every dentist does have scrap. And Howard, I appreciate you having me on. And first and foremost, a big message, like I'll hit on again, is don't deal with the middleman. Deal with a direct end refiner like Heraeus Kulzer. We've been around for a long time. We do a great job, and I really believe we're the best in the business.
And I'm going to end on one story that's so crazy and insane, you probably won't believe it, and it's absolutely true. I swear on it. Unbelievable.
Okay.
So when I got out here in '87, one of my friends bought a practice, and it was an old guy who had died. He just died. The practice went up for sale. Bought the practice. He was working there for about 6 or 7 years and finally decided it was time for a remodel. This old man did all of his own gold casting for inlays and onlays. When they were tearing out the lab, what that guy did is when he cast the gold inlay onlay, had a nugget, he dropped the nugget, he put through the nugget in the little hole by the side. There was just a little hole by the bench, and that was, he just was going to save them all there. When they pulled out that cabinet, it was 2 feet deep of all these casting. What do you call that casting? The sprue. When you wax it on and you tax the sprue, then you cast it.
When you cut it off.
Yeah. So it had a sprue, but it had that bulb on there.
Yep.
I mean, when it was all done and said, what he paid for that dental office, he got half back from that gold.
It's unbelievable.
And it was like 7 or 8 years later. I mean, he was speechless. Couldn't believe it. But
it's amazing. People really don't realize how much, and even you go to dentists, how much you got? I just have a little bit, and they turn it in, and it's worth $1,000. They really, the prices the way they are right now, send it in. You'll be surprised how much that little amount is worth. All
right, buddy. Tony, thank you so much for being on my show. Final question.
Yes.
The Italians in New York say they have the best pizza. The Italians in Chicago say they have the best pizza. You're in South Bend. You're about, what, an hour's drive from Chicago?
I live in the New York area, so I don't go to South Bend very often. I never had pizza in South Bend. So, but to answer your question, I think New York has the best pizza in the world and the best restaurant in New York City, too. If anybody's ever down there, Patsy's Restaurant, the original Patsy's Restaurant, not the pizzeria, the restaurant on 56th Street. It's the original where Frank Sinatra used to hang out and all the boys used to hang out there. It's a great place to go. But New York pizza blows away Chicago pizza, no doubt about
it. On that, we'll call it a day. Thanks, Tony, for being on my show.
Thanks, Howard. I appreciate it.